When starting any project, it's good to have a plan. In the case of home renovation, I mean a literal one. When I moved into my previous flat, I made a floor plan of it, mainly because I wanted to get an idea of the actual size of the flat. You see, for some reason, interior surface area is rarely mentioned on property listings in the UK, especially if it's a rental property, and floor plans of rentals are essentially unheard of. But once I had this plan of my flat, I found it was a pretty useful tool to come back to before buying any piece of furniture. With that in mind, I decided I should do the same for the house, especially as I've planned on making a number of changes inside that require me to have a good knowledge of the layout. This meant taking out the tape and measuring all the things. If you're doing this in your own home, I have a few tips for you. First, don't assume that everything is standardized. My bathroom door might look the same as all the other interior doors in the house, but it is 10 centimeters narrower. Likewise, for all you know, internal walls might all have different thicknesses. Be mindful of baseboards. They're not that thick, but depending on the layout of the house, it can add up really quickly, and before you know it, you're off by the thickness of an internal wall. Not great if you're trying to line up the plans for several floors. To get an accurate measurement into a corner, see if you can hook the measuring tape on a corner that sticks out, and then push the tape into the corner you want to measure to. Proceed by elimination. Some things you won't be able to get a measurement at all. Measure everything else, and based on the shape of the room, you can determine the missing measurement. Use reference points to adjust your measurements. According to my initial measurements, the kitchen window and the master bedroom had significant offset. But looking at the front of the house, it is obvious that they are lined up. With everything measured, you can start drawing a floor plan. I had an old Microsoft Visio license lying around that I used for the floor plan of the previous flat, so I decided to do the same thing here. Sadly, the license somehow ran out and I lost some functionality. I couldn't find a free alternative, so I decided to skip to the next level. I'm making a 3D model of the house. I'm doing this in Unreal, but if you don't know 3D modeling, SketchUp might be a good alternative. Either way, I'm not gonna lie, this is not a quick process. The good news is, you don't have to do everything at once and you can go one room at a time. The big advantage to having a 3D floor plan is that I can use this to do some pre-visualization for the redecoration projects that are coming up. For instance, I could try out different sizes of wooden flooring for the office and figure out which configuration I prefer, only to discover that I had to make concessions because of the orientation of the floorboards. The biggest thing I'm going to get out of this 3D model is being able to see how the floors line up. I want to run network cable to the office upstairs, but I need to plan the run. The biggest unknown was, where should I drill into the ceiling so that I get a straight line to the loft? Thanks to the 3D model, I can get a good idea of where to place the conduit, as well as how much conduit I'll need. But I've also put this model to use in order to try different configurations for the living room furniture that I had not bought yet. At the end of the day, I cannot recommend enough to have some kind of plan of your home, because you'll make much better decisions when you have the information to reduce the number of unknown quantities. This virtual space will be a recurring feature of this series, so please consider subscribing to this channel if you'd like to see where this is going, and I will see you in the next one.